All right. Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Flatiron Syndicate podcast. We are here again with a special guest making a long trip to the podcast from over the pond here. We've got Mr. Damien Bradley on the podcast again now after competing in and podiuming in your first ever Pikes Peak Hill Climb. So,
That's
Damien,
right.
now that
Yeah.
you've actually run and everything like that, I had to get you back on the podcast to kind of talk about it now that the dust has settled, what the experience was like.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think it's nice to go full circle, and having met your team out there and met Scott and everything, and yeah, experience the delights of Pikes Peak. It's nice to touch base with you guys and talk you through.
For sure. Well, so top line, like what was your impressions of the event?
Uh, so yeah, I mean the hill itself, or flat irons, or everything.
Well, just the event itself first and foremost, because I'm guessing like we talked about it. We kind of tried to kind of give you a picture of what the week is like and all that. How did it compare to what your
Yeah.
expectation was?
Yeah. So I think we were quite apprehensive. I think everyone was quite apprehensive about not complying. I think we
Mm,
discussed that before, about the worry of getting to tech or scrutineering and discovering that we'd missed something really significant. But fortunately enough, with the help of John at Alcon and checking through, and also Rob Holland having a look around the car, we were sort of put to rest, and the only thing that was significant that we needed was a rear tow hook, which I'll
oh,
come on to a bit later. But
uh-oh.
yeah, but overall, the event was incredible. It was exciting. It was I don't think anything can prepare you for the altitude, not just in terms of breathing or how the car's going to perform, but stood up there looking around you, driving up there, towing the car up on the test mornings in the dark, and
Yeah.
then as the sun comes up, looking around you and just being just blown away by the sheer extent and the extreme levels of everything. It is the most insane hill climb we've ever done and I've ever seen or heard of.
For sure. I mean, you would not, I don't think you would catch much flack if on one of those practice mornings, right as the sun was coming up, if you missed a session because you were just looking out at the scenery and everything like that. It is, especially in some of the locations, it is quite impressive and distracting.
Indeed, indeed. I think when you're behind the wheel of the car, you're focusing on what's in front of you. But I think that's true of sort of every racing driver. You're looking for the apex, you're looking for what's ahead of you, you're looking often for something unexpected. But you cannot help but take in the amazing backdrop of Pikes Peak as you climb.
Yeah, it is not called the race to the clouds for nothing.
No.
Sometimes it's the race through the clouds, but usually it's the race to the clouds. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Well, and so what did you think of the road once you actually got up there to practice and could actually run on it? What did you think of the circuit itself?
So I had a lot of hours on the sim, on Assetto Corsa, looking at the track and trying to learn the climb. And then we rocked up for our first test day, which I think if I remember rightly, we were testing the top section. We didn't get to test all of it because it was partly frozen on its first
Mhm.
test weekend. So we got to test on part of it. The thing that threw me the most wasn't the altitude, because in terms of the steepness or the elevation of the climb sort of on that section, it was more the camber, which I
Mm.
couldn't experience on the sim quite so much, but also the road conditions at the top section. I had been coming out of a particular corner. Forgive me for not knowing all the names of all the corners,
Quite all
but
right.
there's 156 of them, isn't there, to remember? So,
Yeah.
so coming out of one of the corners on the sim, it was flat. And I'm coming out the corner and trying to stay on the throttle, and my feet are bouncing clean off the pedal box. My helmet's hitting the padding on the roll cage. I
Yeah,
was just, this is definitely not flat.
right.
So that really threw me in terms of how much I was able to commit in those sections. And I was naively taking a racing line. The racing line on the upper section of Pikes Peak isn't necessarily, well, it definitely isn't the smoothest line.
Not always. Yeah.
No.
Well, and yeah, did you get during race week, did you get your practice on the top section? You must have done it at
Yeah, we
least
did.
once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we did on
Do you
race week. Yeah.
do you remember if it had changed much between practice and then actual race week?
Yeah, so on the sections, I think we were quite lucky on our practice weekend. The weather was quite similar, and I think that the whole thing is so overwhelming in terms of getting used to what's going on around you, how much of it you actually take in. It wasn't until we sort of came home and I was able to look back over videos, and it all comes flooding back as to
Mm,
what you experienced, but on the test weekend, we didn't get to do the very top section,
right.
so that the last few corners where it gets really really bumpy. So that there's a on race week that really hit home just how bumpy that was. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and sometimes they'll have to make announcements because I mean it freezes almost every night up there,
yeah,
regardless of how warm it is during the day. And so like there can be a new frost heave that comes up and like a frost heaves for some reason really like the racing line. Like I don't know if frost heaves like they want to be racing drivers or they hate racing drivers or something like that. But it complicates it, and that oftentimes they have to make announcements like, hey, it's such and such a corner. You got to stay wide or stay inside because there's a new bump that will
yes,
could unsettle your car. And usually at least once a year somebody gets caught out.
yeah. I think that Tyler and the BMW got
Oh
caught
yeah,
out.
yep,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
it happens.
yeah, I could definitely see how it could happen, but you touched on something there about the announcements. The organization side of things was something that really stood out for me at Pikes Peak. The communication was fantastic. They were relaying back to us even on the test weekend the conditions where there were issues, where there were problems, where there was water running across the track
Hmm.
that would freeze, and to be sort of ready for that. I think from the UK hill climbs, we're used to poor weather conditions, not as extreme as Pikes Peak, but at Harewood, for example, one of the hills I regularly attend, we had snowflakes falling on the windscreen of the car in April.
Wow.
A couple of years back. So you get used to challenging conditions. The surface conditions at some of the hill climbs aren't great either. They're not quite as extreme as the top section of Pikes Peak, but then they're not under snow for what is it, 6 months of the year,
Or more, yeah.
yeah, or more. So,
Yeah.
but I think that dialed me into, or has been dialing me into, changeable conditions, tight corners, difficult things to deal with, difficult surface to deal with, but it was still testing.
Yeah. Well, and it's a lot. And you'd think if you have a whole week of preparation and being able to like run the mountain in the morning and you have then the whole rest of the day to tinker with the car and you get to do that 3 or 4 times that well, there must be plenty of time to prepare for actual race day, but it goes by in a blink. Did you feel like you were like running out of time or was it overwhelming just trying to get the car set up?
Um, I don't think I felt like I was running out of time. I felt that we didn't have enough time to do some of the things that I would have liked to have done. So I would have liked to have visited your premises, for example. There
Sure.
were things that there were other people I wanted to catch up with in Colorado and surrounding areas as well that we didn't get a chance to do. The team were incredible. I was told to rest. I was told to relax and take it easy. So Stephen that runs the car for me, and James, his son, and then as you know, Matt Clark, friend of yours, who
Hmm.
came out. they took over. The afternoons in Colorado, the weather can be quite changeable as well, even, not up on the mountain, but in Colorado
Oh yeah.
Springs. And we're having these crazy thunderstorms and, rainfall, like it was just bonkers. And they were under the easy up, working on the Legacy, checking and double checking things like the water spray system that we added to the car. They were running that at full chat for full 10 minutes to make sure that they had it running to maximum efficiency and using the full quantity of water that was in the tank, or how much water did we need to carry with us. Lots of things. The car must have been spanner checked so many times. But we were incredibly lucky. Lucky, maybe. Preparation, I think, is a big part of it. So the boys would not let me take the car to Colorado without it being where it needed to be. It was close. There were a few things that we would have done slightly different, but the time I had enough time to relax and chill out, the boys did everything.
All the heavy lifting.
And it was
Yeah.
amazing, incredible. They're all, no one was paid to be there. Everybody came off their own back. They all wanted to be a part of this team. They all wanted to see what we could do with this. As you know, it was, originally a £500, $650 Subaru Legacy that we built in the shed, and bringing that along to Pikes Peak. Could we just get to the top, or could we have a successful trip?
Yeah. Well, and I think it was a success. I mean, what do you think of the result?
Oh, massive, massive success. I think
Yeah.
it's a huge success. To come across with so many challenges we faced all the way along, and to finish third in TA1, 21st overall on our first visit, learning the hill as I went. The fact that we didn't get to the summit leaves something on the table to come back for at some point.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. But I think that to come back down into the paddock and achieve what we did as a team, and no harm to you guys. I know you had a challenging week, but we had a spare engine in the crates, we had spare gear sets, we had spare turbochargers.
Yeah.
We replaced one bolt in the rear subframe. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
No, you
week.
guys had a good run of the week, it sounds like.
It was really, really good. And, we launched the car on every single practice run, all throughout the test weekend
Yeah.
and through all the practice runs, as much as we were told by officials and other competitors to stop because we were going to blow something.
Right.
It was quite fortunate that the rear drive shaft didn't actually let go until we returned to the UK, and we had our first go at Shelsley Walsh. And literally, I guess we scarred it or damaged it, but it held on for the timed run on race day, and it didn't let go until we got back home. So I can live with that.
Good. 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 Yeah. I can only imagine the logistics of having, your car and your spares and your setup, you know, literally half the world away, and then having to ship everything over, go through the car, like try and make sure that your everything is set, and then actually run the race. And yeah, it's the logistics there. I'm sure that was a big challenge.
Yeah, yeah, sure was.
Well, but you made it through, and the car held together, and which was awesome. It was it just the drive shaft? I seem to remember you mentioning that maybe there was more, like a couple other things that they were showing somewhere once you got the car back overseas.
Yeah, so there was a bit of wear and tear on a few other items. Wheel bearings, for example, is something. So they were brand new before going out to Pikes Peak. So those have now been replaced. But these are 114. They're the later specification big front wheel bearings. Genuine super items on there. You would think that they would quite happily survive several events. I mean, I would do 2 or 3 seasons here in the UK, but Pikes Peak is so brutal. It's just every element of it. It's the run time, the switchbacks, the running for 4 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning, and to be hitting the tarmac that hard, full boost up through the corners, giving the car everything. It's just incredibly sore on so many parts on the car.
Yeah.
again, bolt checked, and I checked everything when we came back, and so many bolts were loose. Um,
Oh yeah.
and
A
these were
lot of
checked the night
vibration.
before. Yeah, there's so much vibration, and this was just from running the lower half of the
Yeah.
mountain. And I guess there's a little bit of transit to be considered. It's been in a shipping container for 6 weeks, bobbing up and down on the sea. There's a little bit of that to be considered, but still, that that what it did to the tires, destroying a set of tires on a 4.5 minute run. Yes, we did make a mistake on that.
Hmm.
So we warmed the tires considerably, a little too much, and then with the
Oh.
delay, because what we were told that we were only going to be running part of the mountains, or we thought, right, well, we don't need the tires to last all the way to the top. Let's get them really nice and toasty and warm, not taking into consideration ambient temperatures so much, schoolboy error.
Uh,
And then the surface was red hot at the start line. So even when I launched off the line on my timed run, the car bogged because there was so much grip there. But
hmm.
yeah, we've warmed them up. So yeah, so the mountain is absolutely brutal. It took its toll on a lot of things, but we did a couple of little adjustments. We changed the turbocharger when we came back to the UK, and we were straight out hill climbing again. And everything sort of engine wise, turbo wise, everything like that, and everything was spot on. Everything mechanically, it was just service items and bolt check really.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like the Subaru chassis, we're familiar with the Impreza chassis, you have the Legacy chassis, but I think based on the conditions, it really, I really do think that's one of the better chassis that you can bring up there because of its ability to deal with rough conditions, the suspension. I mean, there's definitely some advantages to having a Subaru up there, it seems.
I think so. I completely agree with you. That was what I considered to be, my secret weapon. I was desperate to go up to Devils, um, to get the switchbacks and show what the car could do. We've worked hard on the Subaru platform and gone to, we've upgraded the magnet and the plates in the DCCD unit, but we've kept that. We've upgraded the rear differential, but essentially it's still, original Subaru casing and layout and setup. And the same with the front differential, we changed that as well. But it was I was just let me out the switchbacks. Myself and Rob Holland were quite competitive with each other. We
Hmm.
talked a lot. He was a great mentor and helped me so much. And I was wanting to see how I could do. A rookie, yes, so it was going to be challenging, but I think the Subaru chassis lets you make mistakes and you can get back. You can get around that as a driver. You can learn. It's quite forgiving. I don't think it's a difficult chassis to drive. I think that the level
Right.
of grip that I had was great. It stops incredibly well. I think the 60 mm longer wheelbase on the Legacy gives it that little bit of extra stability.
Mm.
You may be aware I've campaigned another GC8, a wide arch GC8 that belongs to Stephen Darley. That's called the Baron,
Hmm.
and that's a carbon copy pretty much of the Legacy, but it's 60 mm shorter wheelbase on the GC8. And I think that the Legacy just has sometimes the edge on the stability being that bit longer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a Subaru chassis for Pikes Peak. Let me add it again. Let me see what you
Yeah.
can really do.
Did all right. Did all right. Well, I mean, you just said it. I gotta ask, like, what are your thoughts? Like, I know that it was a big effort to get over here. Is it on your bucket list to come back and try and make a run of the whole mountain?
Definitely, it 100% is. I've raced in Europe. I've raced as part of the British team going across and doing a Masters event in Portugal. I supported Stephen when he did it in Italy. I've raced in France on hill climbs there. So I've seen quite a few different hill climbs. I've been exposed to different hill climbs. But Pikes Peak, there's just something really special about it.
Hmm.
I was told lots about it by David Rowe, who run campaigned his Audis there and has been up there in his Mitsubishi Evo. And I was like, yeah, Dave, it sounds great, but is it really that good? Can it really be that good? I've done, as I say, these European hill climbs, Dave. You've not done those, so maybe the European hill climbs are just as good. But no, he was 100% right on everything he said.
Yeah,
It's just so incredible. It tests every aspect of your driving ability. It tests every aspect of the build, of the guys that I've got behind me, of the calibration engineer or mapper, Paul Blameyer, who done all the tweaks to deal with the altitude. It tested every one of us on the team, and because of that, it's quite addictive, I think.
yeah,
You want to have another go. You want to show what you can do. But there's a little bit of me that feels that you can only be the rookie once. So if you come back, the pressure's on.
yeah,
I don't think you guys will make it as easy for me on my next visit.
for sure. Absolutely. Well, yeah, hopefully sooner rather than later as well. Yeah. It's the challenge of this event, and I feel just so bad that you didn't get to run the whole mountain in the race run. It just, but weather, I mean, just conditions are such a factor there, as you see and now will know. That's one of the most challenging things. I mean, I, this is our 14th year, I believe, and I think there's been now four of those years where you don't get to run the whole mountain. Sometimes a couple times we've stopped at Devils. I think this was the second time where it got shortened at Glen Cove, but this is the first time I've seen it where the whole race was just stopped at Glen Cove. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, you literally, there's no way to know what's going to happen until race day, and you wake up and you look out and you see what's going on. It's
Yeah.
part of the challenge, but it's
I mean,
frustrating.
race day, when we looked out to see what was going on, it was glorious.
Yeah,
It wasn't even that windy in the paddock. Obviously, it was horrific near the summit. And some of the aero cars or lighter cars, it would have been potentially a very, very dangerous climb.
yeah,
So I understand why they did it, and then I think that that's also a little bit of the appeal is the fact that it's so changeable, it's so difficult, it's there's so many things that mountain is going to throw at you to make it more difficult. And that's part of the attraction.
yeah. Is there so as part of your build, I mean, you have the Subaru chassis, that's one piece of it. You have the engine and the powertrain package, that's another piece. Then you have your drivetrain, like the sequential transmission, and then you've got, the Alcon brakes, the braking setup. Is there any one of those particular pieces that you felt was really like a significant help for the challenge of Pikes Peak, maybe over the rest?
Yes. Do you want me to
Which
tell
one?
you?
Yeah, well, as much as you're willing to.
My suspension.
Mm,
I have Olin's TTX 46 stampers on the Legacy, and that suspension is absolutely incredible. It just Before we went out to Pikes Peak, we discovered that the roll cage in my car was scrap. So we removed it and we added a new roll cage supplied by Rollins Motorsport, and they built us a bespoke Pikes Peak or FIA European spec roll cage, and it was actually connected to the chassis, unlike the previous one.
oh,
So the chassis rigidity that we achieved by installing that roll cage transformed the car. I think that naively, again, when we went out to Pikes Peak, we hadn't really done a lot of testing. We'd actually done just a few hours at Harewood Hill, the hill I mentioned earlier. So we'd only done a few hours testing before it went in the container and disappeared. And then
mm,
it was the case of testing out at Pikes Peak. And not being familiar with the surface, not being familiar with Pikes Peak and what we were up against, we didn't make huge adjustments to the dampers to make them very different. But when we came back to the UK and the car was back on hills that we knew, it was very obvious at Shelsley Walsh on my first visit there that there was something drastically wrong with the car or the setup. It turns out that the chassis rigidity had made such a huge difference to the dampers that we had to go hugely softer. like
Oh,
ridiculously softer, to get the compliance back that we needed.
wow.
So from my in-car footage of Pikes Peak, you will notice that the car it looks quite twitchy. It looks like it's torque steering a lot, and it's twitchy, changes
Hmm.
direction very quickly, and a lot of that was down to the fact that it was just too stiff. It may have
Okay.
helped in the lower section to
Yeah.
give us the speed and the high speed sections, but the car was too stiff. And now that we've come back, and I spoke to Russ Walton at Mick Gardner Racing, and he's helped me developing the car. We went along to Prescott Hill Climb, and I adjusted the settings and made it hugely softer.
Hmm.
And now it's back. It's where
Okay.
it should be. One of the other things we discovered as well, which is a slight sideline, was that we had a VVT issue in Pikes Peak that we hadn't noticed.
Hmm.
So at Pikes Peak, we weren't running variable valve timing,
Right.
which I'm sure you'll know from your Subaru experience that that's quite a significant difference in the mid-range power and torque delivery
Yeah.
of the car. So when we had it working again at the first event when we came back, it was a huge eye opener. I mean, we had to put so much more fuel in because of the fact that the VBT was then working, the cam profile changing to suit. Um, and that's another reason to come back and have another go
Oh, yeah.
at the mountain and see how it performs with that. But then, if we had VBT when we were on the mountain, would that have resulted in me going off the side, blowing the motor? Who knows
Eh,
what?
hopefully not. Probably not. I'd say low chance, but I guess you never know. But this is why you got to come back and find out.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. So I just need to find a huge sponsor willing to give me. I've already got some great sponsors on board, and I don't like to push my luck with the guys that help me with the car. But yeah, it'd be nice to get some financial help to get back out and have another go
Sure.
in 27. My son Kalen is studying his GCSEs, his exams here at the moment, and that'll be seeing us right up until the summer of next year. So 2026 is out. I might be able
Hmm.
to fly over and drive. I could maybe drive your car if Scott wants to let me have a go. But
Who knows? Who
yeah,
knows? Yeah.
but yeah. So that's where we're at. So 27 would be incredible, and I think if everything else stays the same, and this is something I'm a little nervous about as well, is that you guys showed me that there were so many variables and so many things can change. And did we have some luck? Would we be a little bit more complacent in certain areas that we took for granted this time that worked incredibly well? And then those are the things that bite you when
Hmm.
you come back and have another go. You get the other bits right that you felt were wrong, but something else will. And that's again the beauty of Pikes Peak. It can throw curveballs at you all the time.
It does. It tends to most more years than not. I mean, having the preparation that you guys did and the way that you worked through everything through the course of the week. I mean, I think as long as you just take that foundation and approach and reapply it, then I think you'll be all right. It's one of the things I think that worked well for us is that we had a rally team before we started campaigning on Pikes Peak. And so when you're running rally, I mean rally is very hard on the car, on the chassis. You break a lot of things. It's almost like if you're not breaking something, well, you're not pushing hard enough. You don't want to break too
Hmm.
much, but like there's just so many things that happen in the course of a rally, and so that was kind of the approach that we started with, and it's kind of like I think that is what the approach that you have to have with Pikes Peak. And even though it's one day and it's 12 miles, it's a whole week of testing, and you never know when the conditions are changing. So you've got to be prepared for all these different possible outcomes. It's man, you just you cannot be over prepared, I don't think. And as
No,
long as you never
not at all.
forget that, then you should be okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, so let me ask. So you mentioned Rob Holland a couple of times, and so Rob is one of the owners of 3R Racing, and I know that he helped you kind of get the car up on the mountain. Rob himself has run the hill climb a number of times, and I think he won. Was it Time Attack one class? I think. Yeah.
Yes.
And so what was it like working with him? What was that experience like?
So Rob's a busy man. So initial communication. He was there when I needed him before we travelled across to Colorado. And then once I was a guest of Rob's, the whole thing ramped up to another level.
Mm.
Um, we arrived at his unit in Denver, and I was absolutely blown away. My car was center stage on their main ramp. We had use of all their tools, all their facilities, all my parcels and everything that I'd had shipped direct to him were all sitting there with my name on, ready for us to use. One of his workshop guys, I think he's called Mitch, had a 600 horsepower Mustang all blacked out the back, and he was like, "If you want to go anywhere, or you can use my car." Straight pipes on it and everything, and we didn't use it, and I was kind of a little bit gutted that I didn't give it a go, but yeah, so everybody was just absolutely incredible, and Rob took us to one side as soon as we met him and kind of gave us a brief on everything from liquid water intake, from the altitude side of things, from everything we needed, little boost cans that you could get with oxygen in, and just went through everything, all the sort of rookie type mistakes and errors that you could make. He probably thought at the time they weren't a big deal, but some of these things were major items in what we did, in keeping the car in one piece, keeping me in one piece, not overdoing things, and tackling the mountain. He helped with absolutely everything up until race day, and I had a talk with him when we got to the finish line, and he said, "How are your tires?" And I said, "They weren't great. I think we got them a little too hot, and the tire pressures were a little too high. We weren't quite ready for that." And he
Mm.
said, "Yeah, I did spot that." But he said, "You showed me you were a capable driver during the week, and I didn't think you needed any more help, being that we were in the same class." So I think that was when his help ran out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
but he was absolutely fantastic all the way through,
Ah,
and a great mentor and a great help with everything. And I hope to see him over here in the UK. And he's done some British touring car racing here in the past, and he may come back and have another go at that. And he's always welcome over here with us.
oh yeah.
So yeah, he's such a great guy. He was such a massive help.
Fantastic. Yeah, you definitely were in good hands all around, I think, which is another big piece of the puzzle that helps make the week go as smoothly as possible. So,
You couldn't do it without somebody out there. You need
yeah.
somebody that has done it before, has the inside track. Even getting the invite to come along. I needed my references, so of which Rob was one of those. So yeah, you cannot go out and do Pikes Peak without someone on the inside.
Now having done it and knowing what you know, I mean, I think that all of the hill climbing that you've done before this definitely is a good foundational piece to make you prepared for this. Is there like if somebody was wanting like was watching this and they wanted to go out and run Pikes Peak, what kind of racing or driving beforehand do you think would be the most relevant or the most helpful to prepare you for Pikes Peak?
Uh, it's as you know, there's a bit of everything there. So the lower section is very high speed, and it was the one area that I was a little bit concerned about was the European hill climbing I've done. That's as close or as familiar as the lower sections of Pikes Peak. Because it's fast and flowing. Your average speed is very high, and you've got to be confident in those areas. The car's set up quite stiff for that section. In the middle switchbacks, you have to have a Subaru chassis. So
Mm,
that's a great thing there. But it's the UK hill climb scene is there are aspects that are very similar to the switchbacks. Is getting in the car or driving the car to where it's almost coming to a stop
right.
as you come around a corner, and then expecting it to deliver everything with a huge climb, such a significant climb. Getting that grip out of that corner and having the confidence to stay committed that's a huge challenge. So the UK hill climbs, I think there are places. There's a hill climb called Dune and East Spray. It's incredibly steep. You feel like you're going to fall over if you walk down it. And when you climb that, there's a right-hand turn at the top that you have to turn into before you can see it.
Blind.
So on that hill, that part of that hill climb prepares you for much of Pikes Peak. But then the top section, you're on a Dakar rally car. It's
Uh-huh.
so bumpy. You need the ground clearance. You need the surface conditions. We were lucky enough when we did it that it was dry and it wasn't frozen. But you need a car with incredible levels of grip at the top section. But in terms of preparing you for it, you can do so much on the sim, and you can learn where it goes. I was interviewed a few times before coming out to Pikes Peak and doing the event, and people were sort of saying, are you scared? And I said, I think once you put the helmet on, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
But there are sections of Pikes Peak that are scary. Even when you're racing, even at speed, there are parts, and I'm not afraid to admit it, there are parts that when you're, the section where Ari Latin puts his hand up, where the
Yeah.
sun comes down, and that sweeping right-hander there, when you're carrying the speed that you are, the car, to get it right, the car needs to be washing out, you've got the arm, you can't see anything, you've just got the sky, and part way round, the sun decides to pop out and blind you.
Yep.
And if you, as I say, you get it right, if you're not committed on the throttle, the car is unsteady and jumpy and unsettled. And if you commit on the throttle, you're carrying crazy amounts of speed that is quite frightening.
Yeah.
So you can't help but be afraid in certain parts of it. And I don't think any level of preparation of any hill climbs or any kind of other types of events, stage rallies, circuit racing, anything at the Nürburgring or wherever, or Spa, is never going to prepare you for that, because that's just,
That's one of the oddest details is like how many other racetracks at any portion have cliffs. Very, very few of any significance, really. Yeah, I think most race organizers have got too much sense to keep those kind of risks in place, and yet that's part and parcel of the Pikes Peak Hill Climb. So
That's
yeah.
it.
Well, and so the other question, and I don't know how much you can say, but I got to ask anyway, because so Matt Clark was out there crewing with you, of course, of Roger Clark Motorsports, and both he and Ollie have mentioned to me that like their whole idea behind their Gobstopper 3 build was to bring it out here for the Pikes Peak Hill Climb. Do you think that that's still as top of mind as it once was for those guys?
I think the trip that we had was a huge wake up call for the entire team.
Hmm.
Quite a bit of it was down to the roughness and the surface conditions in the top section. So big aero cars, big downforce cars, going onto a surface like that, where I watched a Mustang go over the finish line during test week. I could not believe how much air this thing had over the bump that was at the finish line.
Yeah,
It looked like it was heading, into the sky. It was just insane.
yeah,
So I think there's lots of challenges about Pikes Peak that Matt and Ollie, well, certainly Matt had the realization of when we went out, but he was absolutely blown away by the whole event, by FanFest, and I think he's really enjoyed being a part of the whole spectacle of coming back here and all the magazine articles and all the excitement and the hype of having been to Pikes Peak and done the event. But he's under no illusion of the size of the task I managed to get out there in, it should have been a 20-foot container with my spares. Fortunately enough, Dave Rowe let me share some space in his, so just for ease, we ended up putting some stuff in there as well. But 20-foot container. I think RCM would probably need two 40-foots by the time Matt would feel confident in going out
Ooh,
with all of his kit.
oh
Then that does
my.
spare everything.
Yeah.
They're a very, very professional organization, as you know. Matt is an incredibly talented engineer. Ollie's an incredibly talented driver. And they would not want to come out to Pikes Peak without the level of preparation that you and I have discussed earlier. They would be
Yeah.
incredibly well prepared. They would be incredibly well equipped. And I wouldn't be surprised to see them do it. I think that there's a very good chance that they will come out and do it. I'm not sure it will be 26. It may well be, who knows, we might have a JV, a joint venture thing in 27, which would be really, really cool. But yeah, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see what it can do. But nothing, as I said so many times, can prepare you for the challenges of Pikes Peak.
Yeah. Now that Matt has, Ollie's been out here and I think he's seen the mountain, but now Matt being like in it for the whole of race week, I mean, it just kind of it fills out the perspective of what it is, what the event is like, what a lot of the key considerations are. So I'm sure that will be a piece of the formula for success when they come out here. I say not if, but when, because I
When
think it's
exactly?
still something that they want to do. Um,
Mm.
for you, now that you've done this, and at least you've done it, and you've crossed this box off of your list, what are there any other things now that you would want to attempt? Be it over in Europe or elsewhere with your car.
Yeah, I think so. A friend of mine, Rodrigo at Hill Climb Monsters, so he runs that channel. He has an event, a hill climb in Croatia called Bongo, and that was this weekend just gone. That's a pretty insane hill climb it is definitely on my bucket list. It's definitely something that I would like to do, and I plan on visiting. I need to go back to the Isle of Man. That's another hill climb that they do a 3-day hill climb there, and that's another event that I'd like to go back to. Mount Washington, something in America.
Oh yeah.
So I spoke to Travis Pastrana at Goodwood Festival of Speed, and he said that Subaru USA wouldn't be going back to Pikes Peak. I'm not sure I'm allowed to say this, but he said it was because they couldn't win it.
Hmm.
He told me that
Interesting.
they had run 925 horsepower out of their car at the summit, and that was the most they can get out of their Subaru. I found that quite a big number.
And
Not
that's probably
sure about that.
Mount Washington, I would guess.
No, you're talking about definitely talking about the peak at Pikes Peak, but so
Okay.
there's a little question. I've got a little question for him over that. I'd like to speak to the
Yeah.
engineers and find out how they managed to achieve that sort of number because that's a big number.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Mount Washington would be something that is where their focus is. That's what he'd said that Subaru USA and Vermont Sports Cars were going to focus on Mount Washington. So it'd be nice to go head to head with those guys. I have discussed with them and with briefly with Goodwood about that would be a good place to go head to head. So take the legacy
Mm.
to Goodwood and go head to head. UK versus USA. Maybe myself and Ollie can be the UK team, and the USA team can be Project Midnight and the Huckster or
Sure.
whatever else.
Boy,
Or
that'd be fun
Scout,
to
or Scott
watch.
across with your car, or bring your car over.
Yes.
So those, let's see what the future holds. My main priority at the moment is to raise the profile of hill climbing in general, across the board. I think that you need to have quite a certain ability to be talented or to do well in hill climbing. And I don't think that they get, all the formula drivers that I compete alongside, the Alex Summers, Wise Menges, Scott Moran, people like that who, have been champions. They're very talented drivers, and we just don't have the level of exposure in the UK for hill climbing that I think we should have. Go across to Europe or, Fagioli, they're household names in
Mm.
Europe. And in the UK, we just it seems like it's a sort of an old man's hobby rather than a national sport. It is the British Hill Climb Championship, and it needs to
Hmm.
have that level of exposure and coverage. So part of my trip to Pikes Peak was to raise the profile of that. So
Hmm. Well, and hopefully you were successful in that. I've seen like a lot of people, you got a lot of people's attention, so I'm hopefully raised a lot of awareness for what you guys are doing.
yeah, great.
Well, and I wonder why that is. There's something similar here that I've seen with time attack. So time attack racing, where you're running around a circuit, but the priority is not to race wheel to wheel. It's really just to put down a single fast lap time. Sometimes for the whole day, just a single fastest lap time, and that also is something where um, it seems like the people that are running, bigger motorsports events or wheel to wheel racing, they've not given time attack as much attention or as much credit as maybe was due. Do you think that there's any parallels between hill climb and time attack in that way?
Yeah, so that's where I started out. So 2013, 14, and 15, my focus was in the legacy was in UK time attack championship, and we had a great time doing that before I went off to do hill climbing because that's what Stephen Darley was doing, and I think what drew me to hill climbing was the history of it more than anything. Was that records had stood for so many years. If you could make your mark in hill climbing from a sport that early 1900s it had started out, then it would
Right.
it'd be around for a while. But time attack. Time attack has a good level of coverage here in the UK. It's something that's very popular. I know World Time Attack in Australia gets a lot of coverage, and that's a big event. A lot of it's down to the social media side of things, and people like to see wild cars. They like to see flames. They like to see tire smoke. They like to see big wings, lots of aero.
Yeah.
That's what people want to see, and I think that's part of the reason why drifting's been so incredibly popular. And I think we can learn a lot
Yeah.
from drifting. You look at the Drift GP and you see that they've got drones on track that are following cars around and getting some incredible footage that's perfect for Instagram and Reels. I think we can learn a lot from that, and help to build hill climbing around what they're doing. But
Oh, that's
time
a great
attack,
point.
yeah, time attacking and hill climb kind of set in their ways, whereas drifting seems to be evolving incredibly quickly. Such cool cars, and the thing I suppose with drifting, you can see the whole thing, whereas with us hill climbing, certainly in Europe and in the US, people see you at the start line, and maybe at some point across, on the way up, but you disappear into the trees, and that's kind of the last they see of you. Drifting in a circuit, they can see the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's still a lot. I think live in car videos and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and pushing it more on social media. I think if we can push it on social media, hill climbing is an insane sport. For us in the UK, 60 seconds is sort of our longest hill here, but it's the most intense, frantic, crazy 60 seconds in an
Yeah.
800 horsepower car. But yeah,
Yeah. Well, there's the spectacle of what you guys are doing, and like from the runs of yours that I've seen, I mean, it's yeah, it's super intense, and like yeah, the it, the excitement is there for it. It's just maybe trying to get more people aware of it to see it, to get exposed to it.
yeah,
Because I think a lot of people like people see Pikes Peak and like the cars racing up these insane roads and the vistas that you see the in the background and stuff is just kind of mind blowing, and that's kind of part of the appeal. And that but all of that is there for hill climbing, but just as it is in time attack, and time attack over in Europe from what I've seen is really coming on and getting a lot of good attention and good exposure. Um, and here it's starting to as well. And so like the next bastion of that is hill climbing, hopefully.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly that.
Well, and because you're wearing the shirt, I got to ask. So tell me what hillclimbing.org is.
Okay. So yeah, so I was picking through what to wear for this chat, and I thought, I'll put on my usual Team Legacy T-shirt and promote my team. But good friend of mine, Chris Beresford, runs hillclimbing.org, and as it says on the bottom there, all the records in one place. So um, I helped Chris in the early days with hillclimbing.org, and I promote it and push it as much as I can because I feel that the hill climb records are something that's incredibly important. He's actually added Pikes Peak to the website now as well, so all the records for Pikes Peak are now on the website too, so you can have a look at those. So I think that records. I took a record last year, a closed car record at Shelsley Walsh in 27 seconds, which is not a very
Hmm.
long hill climb. But there's been some incredibly talented drivers that held that record before. So I think that it's really important that we remember these records or we take note of these records. And it's such a big achievement to be the fastest car, whether that be with a roof, whether it be on road tires, whether it be a Formula car, whichever. I think it's really important that we keep a hold of these records and celebrate the people that have achieved them. So on the back of the T-shirt, which you can't see, there's kind of a list of all the records for one particular venue. So yeah, so that's
All right.
hillclimbing.org. That's Chris Berry. So he was actually out there at Pikes Peak with me. He was there last year as well. So he attended in 23.
Hmm.
He drives a blob iron Impreza, so a new age Subaru Impreza that's about 700 horsepower. And he hill climbs that as well. So we campaign those
Fun.
together. And then Stephen Darley looks after them all or helps us with them all. So we're all sort of part of the team, so part of Team Legacy, and that's it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, so Team Legacy, is it Team Legacy UK, I believe, .org? Is that
Yeah,
right?
Team Legacy UK. It's kind of
Yeah.
got to a point now that if you Google Damien Bradley or Team
Yeah.
Legacy, you're kind of going to hit upon some of it somewhere.
Yes. Well, I'll have a link in the description so people can see all of that and follow along with you, whatever the next chapter is, and hopefully
Yeah.
whenever at some point in that future chapter, it'll be coming back over here to run Pikes Peak again.
Yeah, so if we do come back, or rather when we do come back, there may be some changes in terms of the look of the car. So we want to keep that retro style and the retro look of the car. That's really important to us. But we have been visiting aerodynamics. So
Oh,
let's see how that.
okay. Oh, fun. The last frontier, as it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've got no excuses then, though. Everything else is there. So I need, if I can get one thing I've said about aerodynamics is that if I do fit aerodynamic devices to the Legacy, they need to be done right, but they also need to be
Hmm.
tasteful. I don't want a generic look to the car. I want it still to look like a Legacy in a BC5. That's something that's really important to me. And yes, okay, we may lose some of the function of the aero because of that. But yeah, we'll see. It's a chapter we're looking into at the moment. It's something that we're researching in a big way, and watch this space.
Interesting. Yeah, there's probably a lot of gains to be had from some small changes, and there probably wouldn't be have nearly as much visual impact necessarily. But
That's it.
yeah, that'll be interesting to see what you come up with there.
Mm,
Very cool. Well, Damien, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for making the time to chat with us and give us the breakdown of what your experience was like. Really appreciate that. And again, to everybody, head over to Team Legacy UK, check out what Damien is up to, and follow along. And cannot wait to see what that next chapter is.
great.
So,
Thank you for everything. Thanks for wanting to talk again and to
of
recap everything
course,
we did. Thank you for being so supportive, Jeremy, and everybody else on the team, and Scott, and everybody for being so supportive and so friendly and welcoming when we were on the mountain. You guys were absolutely brilliant.
oh, wonderful. Well, very glad to have done it and can't wait to do it the next time. Thanks very much to all of you at home for watching and support as always. And until next time, stay tuned with Flatirons Tuning. Thanks everyone for tuning in to the Flatiron Syndicate Motorsports Podcast. Once again, we'd like to let you know that your support is what makes this show possible. Be sure to check out our online store at flatirons.tuning.com for any of your aftermarket or OEM Subaru parts needs. And as always, stay tuned with Flatirons Tuning.